Ditka. Hope you had a good time with that one. But now we're bringing in a real friend of the campaign, someone who was there before it was politically expedient for us, someone who was there for us in 2016 when we had no chance of winning and we were going to lose to Hillary, as the saying goes, bigly. Guys, we're here with Bill Hagerty. Bill Hagerty is a true friend of the campaign, someone who's been there when it wasn't exactly politically expedient to do so. Bill is now running for the United States Senate in Tennessee. We're going to need your help to get him over the line. He's got a primary coming up in about a week, so make sure to get out there early voting. Bill, great to be with you.
Great to be back with you too, Don.
Well, so, you know, my father, myself, we endorsed you guys. How is the race going? What's happening over in Tennessee?
Look, it's going great right here. But before we get started, I got to check in with you on what just happened with you. You really triggered the folks at Twitter. I heard you got a timeout for 12 hours. What's up with that?
I got a timeout. I posted a video of a group of doctors with a congressman on the steps of the Capitol building. I just said, wow, this is interesting. This is a must watch. You should see this. I didn't say this is correct. I didn't say this is right over not. I just said you should watch it because it's so contrary to the narrative that we're being, force fed. They're just cramming this nonsense down our throat. And it was a group of about a dozen doctors talking about the benefits of hydroxychloroquine in their studies, people who are on the ground doing this stuff every day. And I was amazed that was spreading misinformation. Now, it was interesting. I was on Tucker the other night, and I basically said, hey, here's the thing from the Hill where Twitter literally said, we are not going to take down posts from people in the Chinese Communist government spreading disinformation. That does not violate Twitter's rules. Spreading disinformation by Chinese Communist Party government officials does not violate their rules. But apparently me sharing a message, not advocating for it, but just saying, hey, maybe you should check this out and make up your own minds. Apparently that does. So that's the state of affairs in my world. That's what we're all up against. Because we have such a big hurdle to get over. When you have the social media masters telling us what you're going to hear, what you're going to learn, dictating that message, that's really scary, Bill. And so, this is why we need not just the presidency, but we need guys like you in the Senate. We need to get back the House. Otherwise, it's over. And the social media masters are going to do whatever they can to try to control that narrative. If they can do it to me, they can do it to anyone.
Yeah, it's because you're a strong conservative fighter. I mean, look, the Ayatollah has an account. He can say death to Israel. That's not offensive to them. But just the fact that you're a strong conservative, they're gonna be shutting you down. Just conservative voices everywhere under attack. No,
that's 100% true. They can say death to Israel. They can, literally throw homosexuals off of buildings because that's, verboten there. That's not a problem. That's okay, according to Twitter. But me passing on a message from a group of licensed doctors that's contrary to the narrative that they would like. And again, the science of this is not settled, Bill. There's a lot of disputes on that. That's what happens in science. So the fact that they would do this just shows they're trying to instill fear in people. They're trying to make sure that people are afraid because that they believe will help, creepy Joe Biden, who's hiding in the basement for the last few months. That's how they're going to help the Democrats win. So this is, again, what we're up against. But give us the state of your campaign, Bill, because, obviously it's a big one. The Senate is going to be a very tough race. The map sort of doesn't work as well as it has in the past for Republicans. I mean, your seat is one that we got to win. Talk about it.
Absolutely. We've got to send a strong conservative voice into the United States Senate, someone that's a true conservative, too. I mean, that's obviously why you've been on board with me from the beginning. The reason that your dad endorsed me and actually brought me back from my recent post in Japan to come back and run for the United States Senate. We need people that understand and have the competence to deal with the challenges of today. Look at things domestically. We've got huge challenges.
Yeah, I agree with that entirely. I mean, talk to me a little bit about that. Obviously, you were our ambassador to Japan, right? That's a kind of a big post. You're right there in the heart of so much of the action that's going on. I mean, especially now as you're related to, COVID and what the Chinese did, lying to the world about it, spreading the misinformation. We just talked a little bit about that. I mean, you were right there in the heart of it. And again, you don't get that post if you're not trusted, right? This isn't one of those, hey, you get to be ambassador to a tropical island somewhere. I mean, Japan is a big deal.
Anything,
Talk about that a little bit and what you saw and learned over there.
Look, Japan's anything but a tropical island. This is a post that's absolutely critical to our national security. We have more military stationed in Japan than any place else in the world. Why is that? Because that's the focal point for dealing with the entirety of Asia. So when I got there, we're dealing with North Korea and China every day. Of course, I was there looking China right in the eye. We've now got 2 aircraft carrier fleets deployed, pushing back on China. That's happening out of Japan. I mean, China has not been our friend for ages. I've seen this. You've seen it. Your father's seen it. It's been going on for decades. We've had failed policies. Both Republican and Democrat presidents, in the past have looked the other way, while China's continued to mount their aggression. And talking about look the other way, Beijing, Biden, could you imagine giving him the keys? I mean, we know the financial ties that Beijing Biden has with the communist Chinese regime there. His family is closely linked to them, as we all know. We've got to have somebody that actually is clear-eyed and sees the threat that China is. They unleashed this pandemic on us. They've cost us, over 150,000 lives right here in America, millions of jobs. We've got to hold them accountable. Look, I want to make China pay. I know how to hit them where it hurts. We need to make Made in the USA the theme of America again.
Well, I mean, I think that's an important point because obviously, the Beijing Biden thing, not just the financial ties of, Joe Biden's entire family. I mean, imagine for 1 second that I took $1.5 billion from the Chinese government. You'd think the media would have a problem with that, but it's okay for a little Hunter. But beyond that, Joe Biden, with his push to get China into the World Trade Organization, I mean, his policies enabled China to grow from a country the size economically of the Netherlands to the behemoth it is today. I mean, talk about those policies a little bit and what they did to American manufacturing, American jobs, and honestly, the American dream, which in my opinion has been our only export for the last 50 years.
That's very well put. The American dream has been exported. And what we've done is we've opened ourselves. We've made ourselves vulnerable to China in so many ways. I mean, China has increased their military expenditures 8-fold over the past couple of decades. Only until your father became president did we begin to rebuild our military. I mean, the strategy out there was leading from behind for 8 years under Obama. I mean, the Chinese stepped right into the void there. If you look at what they did with these islands in the South China Sea, I remember, Xi standing in the Rose Garden right next to Obama saying, we have no intention of militarizing these islands. This is 2015. By the end of 2016, they'd fully militarized these islands. There are 6 islands out there that they crushed. These were coral reefs that were destroyed. Millions of tons of concrete were pumped into the ocean. No complaints from the environmentalists there. But they built these massive islands right along the busiest sea lane in the world. They have militarized the South China Sea. They're pushing every day, and we're now pushing back. Thank goodness that your father's come into office to really stand up to this for once. And we need to continue to push this forward. And we need allies in the United States Senate that understand the true threat that China is. I mean, we've exported our jobs to China. We've allowed them to have very unfair trading terms with us. And not until your father came into office and stood up to them have we begun to push back and make real progress economically and diplomatically, too. Look at what they did with the WHO. They've overtaken that organization.
Yep. They're WHO, WTO, the World Trade Organization, they've done it all. And if we're still believing that China is going to be a good player in the world, that they're looking out for anyone other than China, I got some swamp to sell you because hopefully people get that through this experience. And again, I think it's Joe Biden's failed policies. But you have a guy like Biden who's been in D.C. for 50 years. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Bill, what I love about you is also you have a business background. You've done this. You've been around the world, doing business, so you understand how those things work. Unlike a guy like Joe Biden, who has just been, he's been an elected official in D.C. since his 20s. He has no idea how these things work. He's never signed the front of a paycheck. He's never created jobs. If Biden could fix the economy, why didn't he do it under Obama?
Right. Yeah, we had this
why wait a half a century to get going? That people can buy this, but again, we have a big hurdle to overcome because of the craziness of the media, because of the social media side of things. I mean, they're going to do whatever they can to boost a guy that's been a failed D.C. politician for 50 years.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, you look at the failed policies of the Obama-Biden administration, the slowest recovery on record was coming out of the last recession in 2008, 2009. They put a $1.5 trillion stimulus package in, and we had the slowest recovery on record. Very simple, because they grew government at the same time. They added more regulations. They dropped Dodd-Frank on us. These guys don't get it, just like you and I do. I mean, we're business people. We have the kind of background. We would instinctively known to get the government out of the way, and that is what's happening right now. I mean, the executive order that your father signed as president to come back and take another cut at the regulatory morass, to shorten permitting timelines, to accelerate projects in the pipeline. That's the way you grow the economy. That's what business people do. We need more business DNA in Washington, certainly in the Senate.
Yeah, this stuff didn't happen magically because Donald Trump took over. It happened because of good policies that, again, these government officials in D.C., 50-year swamp creatures like Joe Biden, they either don't understand or they don't care because, again, the bureaucracy benefits their friends, all their friends that are getting rich around D.C., creating nothing, building nothing other than peddling influence. That's sort of, the deal over there. So these swamp creatures, this is the last stand of the swamp, and it's why we got to win. If we can knock them down a little bit, I think we have a chance. But if we don't, we got big problems. Now, Bill, talk to me one more thing, because obviously in Japan, we're talking about China, but obviously you have a threat, just to the other side of that in North Korea. Obviously, you had to deal with a lot of that. I mean, they were, at the beginning testing missiles, sending them over Japan where you were ambassador. Talk a little bit about that threat, how it's been handled, mitigated, or how a relationship maybe has been formed.
Well, you think about the Obama-Biden administration leading from behind. Every time they talked about North Korea, they talked about a strategy called strategic patience. That was the Obama-Biden strategy for North Korea, strategic patience. I can translate that for you. It means look the other way. That's why Kim Jong-un was able to ramp up his nuclear program. Not until your father's administration came into office, and it was such a privilege to serve there, to fight against the swamp and to stand up for America first again. Were we in a position to deal with this? And the Japanese needed American leadership more than ever because, as you said, the North Koreans launched not one, but 2 intercontinental ballistic missiles over Japan. Then they tested a hydrogen bomb. I mean, can you imagine the tension in Japan, the only nation in the world that's ever been on the receiving end of a nuclear weapon, as they see what North Korea is doing? Thankfully, in the Trump administration, I was able to stand strong and say, America is here. We're going to defend our interest. We're going to defend the interest of the region. This will not stand. Meet with Kim Jong-un should change the terms completely. I mean, we've seen a dramatic shift in our policy toward North Korea. Are we where we need to be at this point? No, but we're in a far better place than we were when Obama and Biden left the office in 2016.
Well, and that's the point. I think, the media likes to conveniently overlook that. I don't think anyone's pretending that Kim Jong-un's not a dictator. I don't think they're pretending that he's a nice guy. But I think in the grand scheme of the way the real world works, whether it's business or otherwise, having a relationship, having an understanding, having a connection one way or the other is a lot better than just saying, nope, we're going to shut you down. This is what it is. We're not going to do that. That way, when something does happen, you have to make that phone call. At least there's something there to be able to bridge that gap. And I think that's so important, and it's one of those things, the morons in the media couldn't possibly ever fathom, because, again, they're too busy running either the Democrats, the Chinese communist talking points, or just pushing and shilling for the left. So, that's truly sad.
It gets back to your whole point, though, about having business people in charge. The fact that your father's a business person means he understands instinctively what you just described. You need to have an open parlay. You need to have an ability to deal with it and bring down simmering tensions sometimes. Your dad stood up to North Korea like nobody's ever stood up to them before, but he opened a channel at the same time, a relief valve. He knows how to manage a negotiation.
Yeah, 100%. That's no one gets rich basically solving the problems of the American taxpayers. They only get rich creating bureaucracy and creating more problems that they can then come in and magically pretend to fix. So that's pretty sad. Now, we have a lot going on, obviously, Bill, in your Senate race, a lot going on in Tennessee, a lot going on in the world. What are some of the priorities when you get in the United States Senate? What are some of the things that you're going to fight for? Help my father get over the line.
The very first thing is certainly standing up we've got to have somebody with the backbone to stand up and hit the mob hard, to push back on everything that's happening here. I mean, it's happening right here in Tennessee, Don. We had a barbecue place called Shuford's. They tried to cater an event for law enforcement here. Chattanooga, Tennessee is where they were. You know what happened? Black Lives Matter finds out about it. They viciously attacked them online. They basically canceled them, destroyed their business. I went over to see them, though. I tell you, the silent majority is strong here in Tennessee, and I know across the world, across the United States. I went over to visit them the next week just to say, look, I've got your back. I'm with you. The parking lot was full. People you couldn't get in. I mean, this is the way people really feel. So this cancel culture, this mob that are trying to destroy statues, erase our history, we're going to push back against this. We've got to. And we've got to have voices in the Senate that are strong enough to have the backbone to stand up and do that. And I want to be that senator for Tennessee.
Well, I think that's so important.
Also, we've got to get onto the economic.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, your father's appointed me to the White House Economic Recovery Task Force, too. We've got to get our economy going again. And because I have a solid business background, solid business experience, I've been working with the team already to work through this deregulation process and, again, accelerate all the projects that are in the pipeline, make it easier to get the government out of the way. And the other thing I'm working on is hitting China where it hurts. I want to get their supply chains back. We cannot be dependent on China for our antibiotics, for our medical supplies, for our high technology. We've got to bring the jobs home. We've got to reshore them. That will hit China economically, and that's going to have a big impact on their malign behavior.
Well, I think without question, I mean, that's one of the huge ones, and that's why you need a business guy like yourself and my father in it. It's why when my father got elected, we were actually able to move the needle on so many economic metric that were just stagnant for so long. So obviously that's huge. And you're 100% right about the cancel culture. And I think that's something that's really important for everyone who's watching to recognize. Like, this isn't just going on in Portland. They're trying to do this everywhere. If you don't think that this stuff is coming to your backyard, if you look at this Biden-Sanders, Communist Manifesto Joint Unity Agreement, that's not just, people talking about it. It's on Joe Biden's website.
Yes.
I mean, this is a radical left progressive agenda because Joe Biden's not the guy in charge. It's the other people in Congress, the Hamas caucus and those kind of people that are up there. Those are the people going to be driving this agenda because I don't think anyone seriously believes that Joe Biden's going to be the guy in charge. Just watch him for 5 minutes and you realize that's not the case. But we got to be careful. This isn't just happening in, Democrat-run cities. It's coming into your backyard. And November 3rd is your last chance to push back before they get their wish list.
Amen. No, it's happening right here in Nashville. Planned Parenthood was just here burning the American flag in our streets. I'm with your dad. You burn the flag, you go to jail. The Democrat solution to all of this is let's defund and dismantle the police. I've got a better idea. Why don't we defund Planned Parenthood once and for all?
Yeah, I'm not sure why the American taxpayer is paying for those things, but again, this is what this leftist progressive agenda will certainly do to you. You get to pay for, and again, this is the Biden-Sanders Unity Plan on Joe Biden's website. I'm not making this up. I mean, you get to pay as the American taxpayer. You have the privilege of paying for illegal immigrants to get free health care. Now, you don't get that yourself as the American taxpayer, just the illegals. You also get the privilege of getting free housing for criminals coming out of jail. Wonderful. Guess what? I would like American taxpayer dollars to go back to benefit the American taxpayer and their children. I know that seems like a novel concept, but this is the state in which we're at. You're not going to hear these things from the media because they recognize it cuts against Joe Biden. It'll cut against, ultimately, your competitor for your Senate seat, Bill. But this is what we are up against. So people have to educate themselves. They have to get around the fake news. They have to figure it out for themselves. And they better get out and vote and bring their friends.
No, it makes a difference. I mean, that manifesto is happening all over America. And as you say, right here in my primary, I'm essentially running against the guy that should be in the Democrat primary. He defends Obamacare. He advocates for socialized medicine. He's out funding Act Blue. He applied for a position in the Obama White House. These are the kind of people that are infiltrating. And they get these never-Trumpers around them. He's got a whole team of never-Trumpers that are his consultants and staff. And they come in and act like they're Republicans running this party. And it's something we got to stand up against right in our own backyard. So we need to make sure we get people out to vote, certainly in my primary. As you said, early voting is going on right now. We need them to vote before next Thursday, August the 6th. That's Election Day here in our primary.
100%. And guys, get out there, vote between now and next Thursday. vote for Bill Hagerty for the United States Senate? Because I know the difference. I mean, you're 100% right. Your opponent, I've never heard of him before. And most importantly, I know he wasn't there for us like you were in 2016 when we had no chance of winning. I know he wasn't vocal about Trump, and supporting that agenda throughout. It's only now when he's running for Senate, magically he pretends he's all of a sudden he's on the team. He wants to do all these things that are Trumpian. I've never heard of the guy before. But again, your opponents, they'll run with those kind of things. So Tennessee, get out there, vote between now and next Thursday. Vote for Bill Hagerty for the United States Senate. Bill's going to be a fighter for us. Bill, thank you so much for being on here on the Triggered Podcast. Guys, thanks for tuning in as always. I really appreciate it. You're the best. Get out there. Let's win this thing. We got less than 100 days left. If you want to recognize your country, if you want to enjoy the freedoms that we love as Americans, get involved, call your friends, and make sure you get out and vote. They are going to do whatever they can. The media is going to give Joe Biden billions in free cover-up and free attack pieces. We got to function as though we're operating at a deficit, because with all of that nonsense, with the help from Hollywood, we are. So help us, help guys like Bill. We need to control the Senate. We need to control the House, and we got to hold the White House. Thank you very much, guys. We'll see you next week.